Hello and welcome back to my spooky little corner of the internet. My name is Chelsea and here we talk about horror movies, paranormal stories, and all whilst I do my makeup. So today we have a couple things, a couple of little announcements first, and then we are going to be talking about the Mothman from Point Pleasant, West Virginia. I'm super excited to talk about this, but first things first, I have officially reached over 1,000 subscribers. That is so freaking awesome. I appreciate it so much. I started this channel a couple years ago now. It was kind of just like random videos. I didn't really know what I was doing with it. And now here we are talking about horror movies, paranormal stories, and doing fun makeup looks. And yeah, so definitely go check me out on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all those places. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it more than you could even imagine. But now getting those out of the way, let's jump into this video. The Mothman, Point Pleasant, West Virginia. So the date is November 12th, 1966 in Clendenin, West Virginia. It's pretty close to Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And there were 5 men. They were grave diggers, so they were out graving digs. They were out digging graves. So they saw this man-like shadowy figure jumping from tree to tree, and all 5 men apparently saw it, and I believe they told the sheriff about it. And it was only 3 days later. The second sighting was 2 couples that were driving along a back road near Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and they were Roger and Linda Scarberry and Steve and Mary Mallett. They were younger couples. They were driving down. There was kind of this area, it was called the TNT area. It was an old World War II ammunition place. And it was kind of, I'll go more into what this place was, but it was right now, it was kind of a place where couples would hook up, stuff like that. And so they were driving back down there and they saw what was a red-eyed, tall figure, and they said that they saw it in the road, and as they approached, it started to run but hobble away, and they said that it was very tall, and as they saw it and they kind of freaked out, so they took off. And they were driving about 90 to 100 miles an hour, and at one point they saw what was later called the Mothman flying above their car, presumably chasing them. And as they got closer to Point Pleasant, got closer to town, it went away and stopped chasing them. So once the 4 of them reached the sheriff's office, they told them everything that they saw, what happened, and Steve Mallett had this to say. He said, "It was like a man with wings. It wasn't anything like you'd seen on TV or in a monster movie." And then Roger Scarberry, he had this to say. He described the creature as having red eyes about 2 inches in diameter and 6 inches apart. Scarberry said that had he seen the creature by himself, he wouldn't have said anything, but there were 4 of us who saw it. So it's just kind of one of those things where it's if it was just me, it's did I see something? Was it really not that big? Maybe it was, an animal, a tree, something, who knows? I guess if you're driving, there's trees above you, whatever. But since there's 4 of them, they saw it. He was like, I definitely was not seeing things. All 4 of us saw whatever it was that was chasing us. It was huge. It had a 10-foot wingspan. It had red glowing eyes. It was like a Birdman, which is what everyone accounts seeing. So the first mention of him was in a newspaper that came in at Point Pleasant Register in November 16th, 1966. It said, "Couple sees man-sized bird, ... creature, ... something." And later they actually dubbed him the Mothman, so that's where that originally came from. And a lot of people said it was because it was kind of like Batman, but it was like a Mothman because the wings, yada yada. So if Batman wasn't already a character in the DC universe, that could have been Batman instead of Mothman, which would have been kind of funny actually. Well, maybe not funny to us if we didn't know about Batman, but what if it was one of those things, what is that called, where the Berenstain Bears, Looney Tunes spelled differently, a Mandela effect. What if the Mandela effect was that Batman the comic was actually Mothman, and then Mothman the creature was actually Batman. That'd be kind of funny. Maybe an alternate universe. Who knows? So, quick just side note, whenever I think of like the Mothman, it honestly gives me like Jeepers Creeper vibes. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. It's like early 2000s movie. I'll put it like up here. And he literally, it just gives me Jeepers Creepers vibes, because that's kind of what Jeepers Creepers. He's like a man with like wings, kind of like a demon thing, whatever. If you haven't seen the movie, it's actually pretty good. I'd go watch it. And I don't know, I actually thought that maybe Jeepers Creepers was like loosely based off of the Mothman, which obviously it definitely could have taken some, like, they could have taken some inspiration from it, but I would say I looked it up, and Jeepers Creepers is mostly based off of a actual murder where a husband killed his wife or whatever, which isn't really the premise of Jeepers Creepers, but it's the way he disposed of the body. Anyway, I digress, it doesn't matter. So I just want to throw it out there that it gives me, the Mothman gives me Jeepers Creepers vibes, only more like in the nature. So once those were like the first main sightings of the Mothman, and since those sightings, a lot of people were coming out saying that they saw the Mothman, that they too saw the red eyes, or something was following them, and it kind of turned into like this whole big thing in Pleasant Point and nearby cities, to the point where there were and plus it's like West Virginia, Ohio area, and it's very much like a lot of hunting, a lot of hunters, rural Ohio, rural West Virginia. I hate that word, but it's just like what it is. And so a lot of these people were like grabbing their guns, wanting to hunt down this like monster creature, whatever it was. People were like, we're gonna find it, we're gonna kill it. If there's more than one, we're gonna kill them all. Like, we aren't messing around. Which at this point, like this Mothman, like, quick little spiel. This Mothman, whatever as they call it, did not hurt anyone. It chased people, allegedly. I mean, was it just flying above you? Was it really chasing you? It chased people, it frightened people. Like, never once did this thing attack somebody, hurt somebody, whatever, at this point, whatever. And they're like, yeah, let's go kill it. Like, why is that our first instinct, to just go kill something we don't know anything about? Like, I don't understand. I mean, that right there is the whole thing about, like, hate. It's like, if we don't understand it, we don't know what it is, kill it. Like, what? Like, what is your problem? Anyway, so all these people, they grab their guns ready to go kill this thing, and it was turned into such a thing that they had to call in the National Guard. Now, where these people were going was that TNT area. Back in World War II, it was an ammunition bunker, and then it just was like, then eventually they abandoned it after World War II. So then, of course, it's like the 40s, 50s, into the 60s, so they just dumped chemicals in there, because, like, why not? So they would just dump chemicals and whatever waste they didn't want over there in that area, because no one was using it, so, like, who cares about the environment? Whatever. And then years after that, they ended up just giving it, like, to the state, and then it kind of became just like abandoned places where, like, teenagers would just drive their car to hang out because no one else was over there, and they would just go over there and make out, hang out, smoke cigarettes, whatever they wanted to do. But it is crazy that it got that much, like, recognition, and there were that many sightings that the National Guard had to step in. Like, that's kind of insane. Okay, so here are some of the other paranormal experiences that were happening around this. So with the Mothman, there were Mothman sightings, but then there's like this whole other side to it that I just got dragged down these rabbit holes. Let's do our eyebrows. So on November 2nd, 1966, so this was just before the actual Mothman sightings, there was a man, Woodrow Derenberger. So he was driving on a road near Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and as he was driving, he had a vehicle pass him. It was nighttime. As this vehicle passed him, he realized that it wasn't actually touching the ground. It was floating, and it stopped in front of him, so he stopped, and this person got out. He said it looked like a man. He was wearing like a shiny suit. He said it wasn't like a uniform. It was like a nice suit, but it was like shiny, almost metallic. Person got out. He walked up to his vehicle, to Woodrow's vehicle, and he said he talked to him through telepathy. So he was talking to him without moving his lips, and the guy basically was like, hi, I mean you no harm, please do not be afraid. And so Woodrow was like, I was terrified, but like, what am I to do? Like, this thing's in front of me, like I can't go anywhere. This thing's talking to me, I'm frozen, don't know. So he puts his window down. So the man starts asking him questions. He like asked him what he would call this place, this settlement. And he was like, I would call it a town or a city. He's like, that's like what I would call it. And he was like, okay. He was like, well, where I'm from, we would call this a gathering. And this conversation went on for a little while where the guy was just kind of asking him just like random questions about kind of like human beings, like kind of just asking him about like people, like things like that, like asked him his name, stuff like that. And the guy who came from the UFO basically was like, my name is Indrid Cold. And eventually toward the end of it, he said, well, it's nice to meet you. We will be contacting you again. And once Indrid Cold was done talking to the man and said, you know, we'll see you again. Nice meeting you, da-da-da. He said that he stepped back and that the spaceship came down and he just got in and it left. Like, it just took off. And he was like so shook, and he went home, told his wife about it, and his wife was like freaking out because that's so crazy. But a lot of people do say that he, like, this guy Woodrow was like a pretty like good stand-up guy. Like, people really liked him. He had a lot of integrity, whatever. And so for him to lie about something like this would be so like out of character and so strange. He actually went to the media and told them what happened, and there's actually an interview, I will link it below. I watched it, it's really interesting. So on the same night, November 2nd, 1966, in Gallipolis, Ohio, which is not very far at all from Point Pleasant, there was a woman outside when she sees a bright light and sees a massive cylinder-shaped object appear in a downward trajectory. The UFO lands in a parking lot and two plain-dressed men exit the craft and start asking her questions in a strange dialect. So on that same night, two men were traveling on Route 77 near Parkersburg in the same area as Derenberger, who met Indrid Cold, and they had a brush with a similar man as Indrid Cold, only they referred to him as the Grinning Man. But it's just very interesting to me. And then it was only like basically 10 days or so before the Mothman showed up and they started having sightings of that. So a couple things. I almost like is it maybe the Mothman is actually from a different planet or a different time period or a different parallel universe, something like that. So maybe that's why these beings that came looked kind of like people, because maybe they are humans that are from the future, which is kind of my take on it. I feel like they're just from the future. So maybe there's a reason they came, and maybe it had something to do with the Mothman, or maybe the Mothman escaped somehow and was able to time travel. Speculation is endless. There are so many what ifs, which is why I love all of this. It's so interesting. Let me know what your take is down in the comments. I personally think they're time travelers. I don't think they're necessarily aliens. I believe in aliens, hence my conspiracy t-shirt. I thought it was very appropriate for this video. But I don't think they were aliens. I think they were just time travelers. Throughout this whole like 1966 to 1967, there were UFO sightings, lots of just like random lights and stuff they would see in the sky, Mothman sightings, lots of like paranormal experiences through that whole year, all throughout the Ohio Valley and down like into West Virginia, because Point Pleasant, West Virginia is like sisters with Ohio. Like, they're very, very close. Some people think that Point Pleasant or a nearby, maybe even like the TNT area, is actually like some kind of paranormal portal, which this isn't the first time people have thought of some kind of portal. There are said to be portals in New Mexico. Some people think the Bermuda Triangle is a like paranormal portal. There are places all over the world that people think are some type of portal to another realm or universe or parallel universe something, because so many strange things happen. So that's one theory on this place. So as that year went on, 1966, it all started in November 1966, and the sightings actually end in 1967. We'll get into that. And throughout the year, there were tons of sightings from it being from the Mothman following people's cars to people saying that they saw the Mothman on top of people's houses, just being like stooped there. There's one man specifically who said that he saw the Mothman next to his bed. He said that he woke up and he saw him next to his bed, and he said that he felt like it was like trying to tell him something, but like it couldn't like speak because it's like part moth, whatever. And so, well, I guess kind of bird-like. It's not really like moth-like. I don't know why they call it the Mothman other than I guess Birdman. Like Birdman probably would have made more sense, to be honest, but I digress. But he said that he woke up in the middle of the night. He saw this Mothman, this creature next to his bed, and that it freaked him out. And he said he felt like he was trying to tell him something, but he didn't really know like what was happening. And he said that he was very tall, the red eyes, a huge wingspan. He said he had a very grayish like body, and that was about it. And then I think he ended up just kind of falling back to sleep, and then when he woke up, the Mothman was gone. So I don't know if he dreamed it or if it was actually like something was there, and who knows. So the last time the Mothman was sighted in this span of time from 1966 to 1967 in this area was on December 15th, 1967. On this day, an actual tragedy occurred in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. In between Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and Ohio was when the Silver Bridge incident occurred. What happened was there is this bridge, it runs over top of the Ohio River, and the bridge accidentally collapsed, and in the collapsing, it killed 46 people. So it's just like this very terrible tragedy, and it's you had all these strange events leading up to this terrifying, terrible thing that happened. So once it was looked into more, it was actually a faulty I-bar suspension chain and just poor maintenance overall. The bridge just wasn't being like taken care of like it should have been. So once that happened, and then it was like the sightings of the Mothman just kind of went down and just kind of went out altogether. It was like no one saw the Mothman anymore, like no one really cared anymore. And to be honest, there's a couple things here. So one, a lot of people, okay, I got a lot going on here. A lot of people thought that the Mothman was a prophecy. So if you haven't, there's a movie out there, I think it's called The Mothman Prophecies. A lot of people think the Mothman was an actual prophecy of this is going to happen. As I said, over the course of the year, a lot of people thought the Mothman was trying to tell them something, trying to warn them of something. So a lot of people thought maybe that was the whole point of the Mothman to begin with. And after that happened, they didn't have as many or really any sightings. So they thought that he went away after that. So it was like he came here just for the situation. And not to like kill the mood, kill the buzz here with that, because like maybe he was trying to warn them, but the thing is like, when you have a tragedy like that, a lot of people are going to no longer really care about like this, like, I mean, because the Mothman, like I said, didn't hurt anyone, whatever, so it was just kind of like this fun thing that people saw, like the aliens, the UFOs. It's like you're going through some real shit now, so it's like no one really even cares. Like no one cares. Like everyone's going through something, everyone knew someone that died. So I feel like either, yes, the Mothman was some kind of prophecy or something, or it's just the fact that everyone went from like having like a good time with this Mothman situation and hearing the stories and sharing their stories to going through actual grief. So speaking of the connection between the Mothman and the bridge collapse, there was a writer named John Keel, and he was said to have had his own Mothman experiences, and he actually did think that there was a link between the Mothman sightings and the bridge collapse. So he ended up writing a book, The Mothman Prophecy, and I believe it turned into a movie as well. I actually haven't watched it. I watched a Mothman movie, I'll put it up here, yesterday. It was really good. It was like very much a documentary. I got a lot of information from that. So I saw in that movie that I watched that John Keel had his own kind of run-in with the real Men in Black. This is another rabbit hole that I didn't go down too much into because I've already gotten off track so many times with things. I mean, yes, it's all linked, but, you know. So I'm going to do another video about Men in Black, which I find them so interesting, like the real Men in Black, like stories that people have, and he has his own stories. That was a whole nother branch. If you want to look it up, you can, but I will be doing a video about that as well. Not just about John Keel, but about the Men in Black in whole. So I wanted to throw that in there because I did find that interesting. So I think maybe because he was writing the book, writing the movie. Maybe he was onto something if he had men following him and questioning him. So the Mothman prophecies actually brought in, a lot of people found it very interesting, and a lot of people read the book. And now down in Point Pleasant, kind of because of the book and because of the lore and everything surrounding the Mothman, there is a Mothman festival that goes on down there every year. There is a Mothman museum, and every year between 10,000 and 12,000 guests show up at this festival. So a lot of people actually have said that they think that the Mothman has been there before a lot of like terrible things have happened. They believe that the Mothman was sighted before Chernobyl happened. People say that they believe the Mothman was warning people of 9/11 and things of that nature, warning or omen of something bad about to happen. From 2011 to 2017, over 56 different people recorded seeing the Mothman in Chicago. There's just a lot of reports of people saying they see the Mothman in Chicago, which I thought was very interesting, especially since that was not very long ago. There's actually one notable person that saw the Mothman within the last few years, around 2017. There was actually I don't know where that accent came from. There was a postal worker, a 17-year veteran postal worker, and so they were on their postal, whatever you call it, deliver mail, and they said that the Mothman or something similar was right in front of them, and they literally were like shook to their core. They said, "I saw that this was not some person but some red-eyed creature, and what appeared to be a coat were actually wings, which it spread out as it turned to look at me." Like, that's so crazy. She said it was a 7-foot tall red-eyed figure that she spotted as at the end of her shift. And since she was getting off her shift, her car was nearby, and she said as it opened its wings and turned to look at her or to see her, that it took off above her with its wings spread out, flew over top of her, and was making a screeching sound as it was flying away from her. And she like ran to her car and was like, "Boy, I'm out of here. Like, what in the heck?" Now, one of the most recent sightings in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, where it all started, was back in 2016. There was a man driving along a back road, and he saw a big creature jumping from tree to tree, as we saw the very first 5 men that saw it to begin with, the first sighting. And this man actually pulled off the side of the road and took pictures of this creature that was jumping around. Obviously, I have no way of knowing if these are real pictures, fake pictures, manipulated pictures, but I will post them here for you to see. They are really interesting. I don't know if they're real or fake. I would love to say that they're real, but it is 2016 at this point, and the internet is in full blown motion. So there are actually a number of explanations from like doctors and people that aren't just gonna jump to basically paranormal stuff that are actually going to look at it like from a scientific perspective, and they think that it's actually this like crane it's a tall big crane. I'll put a picture up, and it actually has like red eyes or red around the eyes, and some people say that what people saw is actually just one of these birds. Like I said toward the beginning, that TNT area where the creature kept running back to, where it was like kind of like living, staying, whatever, they used to dump chemicals there, like all kinds of chemicals, like waste chemicals, radioactive chemicals, like just all the chemicals just went in that area, because that was back in the day, no one cared. I mean, some people still don't care, but nowadays we can track people better. But anyway, so some people think that this bird just got in with those chemicals, and maybe it or its babies or whatever came out really big or came out looking some kind of way, and that's actually what people saw. Our eyes are done. Now we're gonna work on our lips after I add some shimmer goodness. So more of where this Mothman kind of might have come from or what it is. On October 10th, 1774, there was a battle for land between basically the white people that came here, the settlers, whatever, and the Native Americans that lived in Point Pleasant at the time. And there was a battle. It was the Battle of Point Pleasant. The battle was led by Chief Cornstalk, and there was a bunch of different tribes that basically got together to fight off these colonizers, is what they basically were. And it's actually a sad story because basically, as we all know kind of what happened, colonizers, they came in, they acted like they were going to be peaceful, nice people, da-da-da. Chief Cornstalk was like, okay, you know, we'll be nice to these people. They seem all right, whatever, you know, we don't have any reason to not believe them. And then all of a sudden, when they were least expecting it, these colonizers basically attacked them, took their land, killed the Chief Cornstalk, who was like the one that basically stuck up for them, helped them, was their friend. And since they betrayed him in that way, it was said that he cursed that land. And I will actually read to you what was supposedly Chief Cornstalk's final words to these people, about these people. So these are Chief Cornstalk's final words. I was the border man's friend. Many times I have saved him and his people from harm. I never warred with you, but only to protect our wigwams and lands. I refused to join your pale-faced enemies with the redcoats. I came to the fort as your friend, and you murdered me. You have murdered by my side my young son. For this, may the curse of the Great Spirit rest upon this land. May it be blighted by nature. May it even be blighted in its hopes. May the strength of its peoples be paralyzed by the stain of our blood. And ever since all these Native Americans were killed, and he said that, it was actually, Point Pleasant was one of the second places to be colonized. And the first one was in Pennsylvania. It was Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Obviously that place is still a big city. It's thriving. And in Point Pleasant, it never thrived. Everything they tried to do there did not work. Everything there was literally like cursed. So a lot of people, or a handful of people, think that this Mothman was actually like a predecessor to the natives' Thunderbird, and that it was there to, I guess, cause harm. Even though it didn't hurt anybody, it's almost like it was bringing kind of like bad juju, or maybe it was to warn that there would be bad juju. So I don't know, I thought that was kind of an interesting piece. That's something that people always bring up because that happened in that vicinity. All right, we are going to blend this, and then I'm going to do black on the outskirts. Now we're going to do black on the outskirts, and then we'll blend that. So some of my final thoughts, definitely go check out the museum if you ever get a chance, or the festival. I hope to check that out sometime soon. Definitely check out the movies and just kind of go down some of these rabbit holes I mentioned. They are so interesting. Definitely let me know down in the comments what you want me to talk about in black, things like that. Definitely do more stuff about aliens if you're interested in that. Let me know down in the comments. Let me know if I forgot anything you want to add. I love talking about this stuff, obviously. I love talking about it with you guys. Clear gloss over everything. Anything makes it look so good, so cute. This looks really cute. Let me know what you think about my makeup look, about this video. Thank you again so much for 1,000 subs. It's amazing. It's awesome. I never really thought I'd get here. I never even thought I'd be able to make these kind of videos without it just being a hot mess. And maybe it is a hot mess, I don't know, but I have fun. Some of you guys seem to like it, so thank you so much. Also, I apologize so much for any sweat that you might have seen or do see. It's hot as balls up here, but I made the most of it. This makeup is so freaking cute. I love it so much. I will see you guys in the next one. Have a fantastic day. Be safe. Have fun out there. Peace out.